Hello guys, today I am making Fern Staff from Frieren. I 3D printed the whole thing, assembled it, sanded, painted it, and let me show you how it all came together. This is gonna be a gift for a friend, so the pressure's on to get it in time for her birthday, so we'll see how I make it. These are all the pieces fresh off the printer. In total, the full print took about 1 day and 2 hours. That's what the slicer tells me. But in reality, it was like 2 days for myself. I did not print at night, and I took some breaks in between. Forgot the time was going on. I found a file in Thingiverse, and it came sliced just how I have it here. I didn't make no changes to it, and it was a great size for my printer, so I did not modify anything about this. I'll drop a link to the Thingiverse just in case you want to look it up or follow along. Before gluing, I always do a dry fit to make sure everything lines up. In this case, it did not, so I had to get a razor and just um, cut a bit of the sides of the cubes so it will fit snug in there. This is what the staff will look with all the pieces together. No glue, jet, everything matches pretty well, so I move on to the real assembly. And of course, I forgot to turn on the soldering iron. Classic. This took me a couple of minutes to realize, and then I just left. Like I mentioned before, I printed the staff in several segments. Here's a quick look at each one before gluing. I didn't want to spend too long on this part, but I wanted to show you how the model came together, or how the parts each line up. As you can see here, I am using a 2-part epoxy for the main joints. It gives me a much stronger hold, also a bit of time just to get everything together. It's way better than using hot glue, especially for a prop this long. This part took a bit of time, but it was worth it for the strength, because I left it like 30 minutes after that to make sure everything dries out. After gluing everything, I sand everything down. As you can see, not everything is combined here. That's because I didn't want all that movement going to the staff and breaking some of the joints. So I worked everything in 4 pieces, and then we'll glue everything together. I use 120 grit sandpaper just to knock down the rough texture and get a more even in the joints. I focus mainly on the top part because I wanted it to look a little bit worn. It was a bit sharp and it could probably get tangled in some other stuff. And this staff has been used for a couple of years, so it wouldn't have that much of a rough edge. It will have a more used edge, in my personal opinion. Next, I use a soldering iron to smooth out seams and blend areas together, because I only apply basically a 2-part epoxy in the middle, so I want those joints to be a little bit more strength since it's a long staff. I also solder a little bit of the plastic on the top and the bottom. That's because it was still a bit sharp after the sanding, and I wanted those edge a bit more smooth, and also like if it had been hit or softened. Also, the bottom had a couple of rough edges that were really pointy, so I also softened those up a little bit. For the areas that won't be covered by the purple fabric in the future, I use some Bondo to fill in those deep seams. I didn't want to worry too much about those areas because I know they will be wrapped later. After that, just sanding and repeating the process. Once everything was to a point that I was happy how it would look, I added basically Mod Podge as a primer to help seal the surface so the paint goes on more evenly and just covers some of the imperfections that I couldn't get with the Bondo. Since there's a lot of texture here, there's a lot of little details that I didn't want to over sand and just ruin them. I did a type of method of just tapping it so it wouldn't be consistent and you wouldn't get those strokes of the brush. These are the paints that I use, and I accidentally grabbed the gold instead of the silver. I didn't even notice until the very end, so yeah, you'll see that disaster unfold in a couple minutes. I'm not even sure how I got those bubbles here, but I had to sand them down and basically repainted it. It's funny to add the wood details to it. I start with the wood part first. I love this part because it's so relaxing. Just layering browns until it looks like a real wood, and you can really let your imagination just flow here. I'm also doing like a tapping method. Just wanted to blend some black mixed with brown colors and some lighter brown colors. I ended up changing it later on because it wasn't convincing me that much. You'll see it more or less in a couple of seconds again. Now we just have to do all the other side, and this is more or less how I ended. And like I did the strokes instead of the tapping, and I think it gave a nice color to it. Once the paint was dry and everything was how I wanted it to be, it's time to start wrapping the staff with the ribbon. I used hot glue to secure it, and yeah, I didn't buy enough fabric. So here's more or less of a small time lapse of me wrapping in vain. So I couldn't find the same one, so I had to rip all of it and redo it with the right amount painfully. I really like the kind of shine and magical that the other one had, even though it was translucent. But this one feels a little bit more lore accurate, and I had enough, so and I was running out of time as well. So this one's gonna go. And I bought 3 rolls of this one, and that was way more than I needed because it's more longer than the original one. And here we're just gonna attach the final part that the staff needs. We're just gonna apply it with some hot glue, and it's the last ring. Basically this is also the moment I realized I kind of messed up the coloring, because I was like, okay, let me look at the reference, see how everything goes here, and I noticed that it was silver and not gold. So I cover everything up. I painted it black first and added the correct silver on top, and crisis averted. And here it is, it's finished, the Fern Staff. I made it in time. I'm really happy with how it turned out, especially after all the mistakes along the way, and my friend was extremely happy with it. If you like watching my random inventions and stuff that I do, feel free to subscribe and let me know what prop I should make next. If you have any ideas, if not, just follow along and see what else I create. Thanks for watching.